So, Brian, you recently visited Casey Knips in Minneapolis for a fine home building feature. Can you please talk about why you went there and what you learned first, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about what you saw there.
Well, I went to visit Casey Knips for 3 features. So which one are you alluding to?
Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I saw some photos of Casey's shop, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
frankly amazing and
yeah,
beautiful and functional. And
yeah,
I wanted a chance to talk about this so
yeah,
folks can look for it in the magazine because,
yeah.
yeah.
It's great, and it's going to be in the next issue. It's at the printer now, and this was kind of serendipitous. So I went out to work with Casey on an article that we've already published on installing these modern details for pocket doors. And Casey is a custom finish carpenter, um, and he had to mill a lot of custom parts for these pocket doors in his shop because you needed very particular dimensions, and he needed grooves and these sub trim pieces to accept clips, and just a whole bunch of stuff that was just easier done in a shop than on site. Not that you couldn't do it on site, but it was easier done in a shop than on site. And I came back after having spent the last day of that trip in Casey's shop with him. I came back sort of impressed with how how thoughtful his shop space was. It's a 2-car garage that he's outfit to be his workshop, and how thoughtful his tool selection was, his layout was, and some just like really kind of clever ways to make a lot of impact with, I don't know, secondhand kitchen cabinetry, for example, that he uses for a lot of storage and to build his miter saw station. And when I got back from that trip, we were looking at some um, new research that we had from our audience, and we had done a bunch of surveys, and it had been put together by our people who do research for our company and presented to us. And one of the things we noticed was how many people in our audience either have or have access to a wood shop. And that was, believe it or not, that was, and you know this, Patrick, but that was kind of news to us. We hadn't seen that before, and we've always kind of leaned towards on-site solutions for things. And not that we won't still do a lot of that, because I think that's great stuff for our audience, and especially for the pros in our audience who are often on-site and have to figure out how to do something with the tools they have at hand. But when I saw that research, I said, oh, I'm going back out to see Casey again in about a month. Like, maybe he'd be interested in writing about his shop. And so Andres actually was with me. So Andres can might have some stuff to add to this. But so we went out, and as we were working on another project, we also had Casey walk us around the shop and tell us a lot about what he had. And like, just he has a lot of the basics stuff that you would have in a shop, and that you would expect to be in a shop. But then he's just also got these really worthwhile solutions. He's got a vacuum extension for his dust collector. It's on this flex pipe. He can just, with one magnetic connection, he can all of a sudden have a vacuum in his hand, go over to his work table and vacuum off all the sawdust. So not sweep it off and then have to pick it up, but actually vacuum it up and have it be collected by the dust collector. Similarly, he's got a hose reel that is always connected to a compressor, so he can always blow off his work pieces, before a glue up or something, or before finishing work. Really simple things. A rolling cart, everything on mobile bases, building a custom miter saw stand out of secondhand cabinetry, so that it's not just a miter saw stand with legs, but it's got storage beneath it, maximizing that space. So he just was full of ideas. And so, yeah, we have 6 pages or 8 pages coming up in the next issue on all these ideas. And anyone who reads the magazine, and if you don't, go to finehomebuilding.com to subscribe. Anyone who reads the magazine will also see a letter that I wrote, a letter from the editor at the beginning of the magazine, that we'd love to see more shops. And we did this once with sawhorses. We published an article on someone's sawhorses, and we kind of in that issue we put a call to show us your sawhorses. We ended up being able to share, I think, 4 or 6 pages of great sawhorse ideas in the next issue. I don't know if we'll get the same feedback and reaction to this article, but if we do, maybe we can share some more great shop ideas in a coming issue of the magazine.
Hear that, folks? Show us your shops. What a great idea. This is fun. And the problem solving abilities of our very smart audience, they're going to have amazing stuff. I just absolutely know it.
Yeah, and I didn't mention the coolest thing in uh, Casey's shop, and I'm not going to. So if you don't get the magazine, go to finehomebuilding.com and subscribe, and then you can see the coolest thing in his shop.
I'm gonna spill the secret is that he has made his own hose management for his dust extractor, and I don't even care if it works. It is so
It's
cool,
so cool.
looking. You would totally want that there.
Yeah.
What do you think about this, Ian?
I think it looked like a really efficient space from the couple of photos that I saw, and I didn't pick up on that it was 2-car garage sized. I think in my mind I was expecting it to be quite a
Giant
bit
building.
bigger than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2-car garage. He closed off one door and built a wall there for clamp storage because he doesn't need 2 doors. Didn't change the outside appearance at all, but on the inside, he got back that wall space.
Yeah, I'm currently parking my truck in the pole barn next to my house so that I can leave the shop set up in one half of the 2-car garage. And last weekend when I was working out there milling up some exterior trim pieces, I was thinking, wow, it's getting cold and dark in the morning. I'm going to have to figure out how to set all of this stuff up and get the truck back in here.
Well, I think anyone who does home repair, improvement, remodeling, and professionals who do complex trim work and built-ins and this kind of stuff, you have to have a shop. And I am sure that folks are going to benefit from our treatment of this subject. And I hope you all will share your shops with us. And even if they're messy or works in progress, I would love to see what you all have to help you do your projects. I think that would be super interesting to the rest of the fine home building community too.
I'd love to see some shops with some great Euro style combination machines in them. I've had a long time fascination with like the 5 and 7 tool Euro combi machines. Maybe someday I'll spring for one while my wife's not looking. Just have like a giant $15,000 chunk of European metal dropped at the house, and then realize that I don't have enough juice in the house to power it.
I did. It's funny you mentioned your wife because after Andres and I guess we kind of ratted Casey out a little bit when we talked about his tool obsession on the last episode of the podcast. Because I did get an email from his wife thanking me for letting her know how much she was spending on tools.
I met her at the Building Science Symposium. She's an Anderson employee and super nice person. And I was delighted that to meet her and tease her about Casey's shop. I think that was fantastic. Well, y'all, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks to very much for listening, and thanks to Ian, Brian, and Andres for joining me. Please remember to send us your questions, comments, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@finehomebuilding.com, and like, comment, or review us however you're listening. It helps other folks find our podcast and keeps us out there in the Ethernet. Thanks very much for listening. Happy building.